everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Magical Jill, and today we're going to be talking about Sailor Moon R, the movie, or Sailor Moon R, The Promise of the Rose, depending on where you're from. And we're going to talk specifically about the Viz Media dub version, because that is the version that's uncensored but is also in English. I also wanted to introduce my husband, Jay, and he wanted to talk a little bit about this movie with me because it was one of his first times watching it with me.
This is actually my second time watching the movie now, and I think it's a really underrated gem of an anime movie. It's much higher budget than the anime in terms of being able to constrain a budget into, a shorter runtime and have much better animation and stuff.
Yeah, it has way better animation. It's in widescreen. They even, reanimated certain scenes because they do a little flashback to certain things from the original 90s anime, but they, reanimated those scenes, which is really cool.
And not to invalidate anyone's experience with the movie, but I do think that it's difficult to talk about these movies because they were heavily censored for the DIC dub. I like to call it the Dick dub, but I guess it's called Deke.
I call it the Dick dub too, but I think that's because it's funny.
Yeah, and so people have had very different experiences with these movies, just like they had very different experiences with the story of Usagi, which a lot of people just know Serena, and they didn't watch the later version. I highly recommend anybody who did see the original dub watches the Viz Media one. I personally think it's really good.
I think it's really good too, and it's much more uncensored. They get into a lot more darker topics or taboo topics.
Yeah, I guess I would say the Deke Media one is the one I would show my 5-year-old girl or boy if I was trying to get them into anime. But the other one is the one I would show someone who's serious about watching Sailor Moon. That said, I do think that that's a tangent we could get into, but this movie for me is really beautiful. It makes me tear up a few times. I really love the story. I do think that when it comes down to it, though, you kind of have to have the discussion of when or where does this take place. And very briefly, I want to say that people have been trying to fit the 90s Sailor Moon into the mold of the books forever. I think now that Crystal and Eternal and Cosmos, those movies and seasons are out, people are ready to let the 90s anime stand on its own as
its own canon.
Yeah, its own continuity.
And I think that this movie is in that canon.
Yes.
Personally.
That's what I personally think too. Ikuhara, the man who directed this, he had a heavy hand in directing and running a lot of Sailor Moon for the 90s anime.
Like the Makai Tree arc?
Especially, yes. And he did refer to this, I believe, as well in an interview, which Tuxedo Unmasked actually covered. We usually link our sources, so I'll do that in the description. Kind of referring to this as a refresh. So some people have considered this just a retelling or reboot of the Makai Tree arc. I don't think it is. I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's like a soft sequel to it, which I wish that the characters would have mentioned maybe a little bit about Aileron in it, but maybe they didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Well, and what was the Makai Tree arc, real briefly, Jill? Because I think that is important to this discussion.
The Makai Tree arc was kind of like a filler arc that they created while they were waiting for Naoko to continue writing more of her manga, and they didn't really know what to do with the anime during that time, so they made something up. And it's about Ale and On, who are 2 aliens who come to Earth with their little tree of life. It's kind of like an interesting allegory for Adam and Eve in a lot of certain ways, which I really love. This show gets into a lot of different Christian imagery. They often paint Sailor Moon as a Jesus Christ-like figure. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting.
Or there are also the shrine maidens and the things going on in Hikawa Shrine. There's a lot of spiritualism. I did want to mention, though, that Makai Tree arc thing is important because Fiore, you're going to notice, is very much similar in design to Ale and On.
Yes.
I think you and me personally believe that he's from the same alien species.
I think he is.
And that he was separated from his people at some point, as a survivor of the tragedy of what happened in the Makai Tree arc. Nevertheless, I do think that's all important background getting into the movie because you can watch this movie if you want to. It's not necessary viewing for the 90s Sailor Moon anime, but I do think that it enhances these characters a lot, especially Mamoru.
He gets a lot more backstory in this movie that I think they kind of skip over in the 90s anime a lot. I feel like they skip over Mamoru a lot of times in the 90s anime a little too often, And I'm glad that this is kind of like a Tuxedo Mask-centric movie.
Well, that's also, there was these allegations from the fandom for a long time that Ikuhara hated Tuxedo Mask. I do think that there is some validity to him trying to move away from Tuxedo Mask in the show. You know, there were things like, well, maybe we could kill him off, proposed, and things like that that didn't work. But also, this movie to me, when he had more creative control, it doesn't make any sense if that's fully true, because he very much pushed the Tuxedo Mask Sailor Moon love story here. I would argue better than it was done in Sailor Moon R overall.
Oh, for sure, yeah. This movie is a big tearjerker for me because of that and because of the themes of friendship. Something that I absolutely love about this movie is the fact that they get into Tuxedo Mask's backstory a lot more, and I feel like in the anime, like in the 90s anime, they often skip over him. And it makes me a little sad because he's one of my favorite characters, and I was really excited to see more lore on him, if you will. I really love that this movie gets into his past. It talks about how he was in a car accident, he lost both his parents, and he was really lonely and sad in the hospital, and then one day this lonely, sad alien shows up, and they start to care for each other deeply and are kind of family, and really love each other and are best friends. And then sadly his best friend, who's an alien, has to go because he has a hard time living on this planet. You actually find out in the movie that Tuxedo Mask gives a rose to Fiore, his little alien friend, and you find out that that rose had actually come from Usagi because she was there visiting the hospital when Shingo was born, and she gave a rose to Mamoru because she felt bad for him because he was all alone.
And it took the entire movie to kind of learn that storyline. I think over time, you know, you just think that Fiore sees Usagi as the girl who replaced him. You know, Fiore sees it as, I could have been with my friend Mamoru, and depending on how you view it, I think he's gay, or at least bisexual or whatever. Maybe even...
I think he has a sexual attraction to Mamoru.
It's interesting, though, because if this is a sequel to the Makai arc, Ale and An were only ever attracted to the opposite gender or sex. It's also possible, though, that they were just straight versions of the aliens. You know, like heterosexual versions of them.
Yeah.
And Fiore is different. Like how on Earth, the girls are mostly, they're pretty bi. Like, for example, in this movie, when Jupiter just straight up calls Ami cute.
Yeah, she says, "Oh, Ami, you're so cute."
Yeah,
and I love that. I ship Mercury.
And makes her blush a couple times in the movie, and they're shown directly next to each other multiple times in this movie too. My point, though, is that it's interesting because it was very much open to interpretation.
Yeah.
You know, like what the meaning of this love was. And I don't actually think it makes a difference.
I think they tried to censor it a lot more in the Dick or Deke dub, if you will.
They would be so upset that you're calling it the Dick dub after they tried so hard to censor everything.
I think it's so hilarious to call it the Dick dub. But
no, but you're right, because they toned down all of those themes, even the cousin stuff, remember, with Uranus and Neptune. But the point I want to get to with that is, I don't think it matters. If they are the closest friends ever, or Fiore had a sexual attraction to Mamoru, I think that's up to you, and I don't think it matters, because either way, it's just showing that this is some version of Fiore
that really, really cared about
and
Mamoru.
loved Mamoru in one way or another.
Yeah.
And also, his physiology of not being able to stay on Earth, before we get off that topic, it does fit the Makai arc. They were only able to stay on Earth for a limited amount of time without running out of energy, and they had to go back to the Makai tree over and over to recharge.
And that's why they put their Makai tree in their apartment.
Yes, and Fiore, famously, what does he not have?
A Makai tree.
He has nothing. And so when he's shown floating through space, he's shown very low on energy, kind of just surviving.
And that's why when he finds the Cassinian flower and it starts giving him energy, he thinks that this is kind of like his Makai tree, you know? He thinks that he's going to be able to go back to Earth and be with Mamoru, whether, you know, whatever way you want to think of that. And he ends up going back to Earth with this Cassinian flower who is evil. And he starts to realize that Mamoru has kind of replaced him with this girl. And it kind of makes him go a little crazy.
Yeah, it does. And also the flower is very obviously affecting his mind. Because you'll see the flower will turn red, its eyes, and then his eyes will flash red as well. So he's kind of being influenced and possessed by this dark entity. It's interesting because The story, I think, is very well done. It's only a little over an hour, I believe. It feels like an extended 2 or 3 part episode just mashed together.
But it's very emotional.
It's extremely emotional. It is a self-contained story that I think works very well on its own. But it also works very well as you watched the Sailor Moon R show. Now, before Chibiusa leaves to go back to the future, watch this movie.
Yeah.
And it fits right in there.
It does. It fits right in there. I think it's really interesting. You see, at first, them fighting one of the flower's creations. She's kind of like this spider-like flower enemy type thing. And they do really cool animations for all of their transformations and all of the fighting attacks, and it's so awesome and well done. And I love to see the fact that, like, Minako is the one leading all of the girls into this battle. You know, she's actually portrayed as more of a leader in this movie, like she is in the manga.
Well, did you notice that she's also the first shown in a lot of scenes?
Yeah.
I had to edit clips for this. We are also showing, I'm sure, the Sailor Moon video games and some stuff, too, along with imagery, because of YouTube copyright. But something that often happened in every scene where there was a conflict was that Minako showed up first. She was the first to walk out on the asteroid in front of the girls to check out the asteroid. She was the first to walk out and get grabbed by the plant zombies that were being controlled by the plants. She was always first.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that because she is the leader of the Senshi in the manga, you know, like, even though Sailor Moon is the princess, Minako kind of takes on the role of being the leader and the protector of everybody.
Yeah, she's like the battle leader, the shot caller, and the strategist.
Yeah.
And did you notice she does that too in this movie when she says, Sailor Moon, you cleanse the asteroid, we will work on, you know, protecting you. Like, she tells Sailor Moon what to do, but obviously Sailor Moon is above all of them, technically, in the hierarchy. But in the manga, she listens to Minako, because Minako, she was Sailor V first. You know, she had this background.
She's
very
more
smart
with that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that they got that right, because I feel like, again, in the 90s anime, they kind of ignore that fact, just like they ignored Tuxedo Mask's backstory. And both of those things we get in this movie, which is really awesome, and I love it, and that's why I want this movie to, in my opinion, be canon to the 90s anime, because I think it helps a lot.
Here's the thing, who cares?
I don't know.
I just want to throw this out here. Again, I know that this is not a Dragon Ball video, which we've been talking about. It's like, does anyone really care? Because everybody has moved to the books, right? They've moved to, like, well, I watch Crystal and I'm watching the new movies, and that's their book canon. Same with Dragon Ball. They're like, well, sadly Akira Toriyama passed away, but him and Toyotaro worked, I believe I said his name right, worked so hard on the Super manga, and, you know, I'm following the story that follows that. It's like, does it really matter to you if somebody watches Dragon Ball GT and they're like, look at these references to the old Z movies that aren't canon to the books, they're canon to this?
I don't know.
Same with this.
I think we could make a whole video about canons, too, at some point, and I think that would be really interesting.
The only people I see care are very angry people on Reddit.
Yes, pretty much.
But I think this movie was here to have fun with, and I do think it's very fun. It made me cry twice.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting themes in this movie. There's a lot of themes surrounding friendship. So, one of the things that the Cassinian flower does is it possesses Fiore and makes him think that Usagi is some horrible witch.
Yeah.
That, you know, she is manipulating everyone around her. And the reason the Cassinian flower is doing that is because it recognizes Usagi as the powerful entity that is protecting the Earth and wants her out of the way so it can take over the Earth.
It's threatened by her.
Yes. And so basically, you know, a lot of the movie is spent fighting against this flower and fighting against Fiore, but it's also kind of arguing with him too about how Usagi's actually a really good and kind person. And they even go through all of the different characters where, like, Jupiter shows how much she cares about Usagi because she isn't alone anymore.
Yeah.
You know, because Usagi helped bring her into this friendship, and all the other girls agree and are like, yeah, without her, we'd all still be alone. And that scene right there where it does, like, little flashbacks to Usagi meeting all of them, it always makes me cry.
The scene that makes me cry is when Fiore is so desperate. I would say he's still influenced by the flower. He had been transformed. He tried to kill Sailor Moon, obviously, and drain her energy, and, you know, then they tried to reason with him, and the flower kind of influenced him again. And after that, Mamoru hits him with a rose. And it's one of those things where it's the opposite. It rhymes very well with the beginning of the movie. This movie starts out with the idea of these two children who are very alone. They have no one. Their family is gone.
So their family is each other, and they love each other.
And their family is each other. And as Mamoru got older, he thought that he had just imagined Fiore. Mm-hmm. He didn't even think he was real. He thought he had created him in his head because he was so traumatized. And so Fiore, for all these years, has been floating through space, no Makai tree, nothing. And he finds this flower and he brings it back to Mamoru. And then Mamoru tries to kill him with the same thing that
he had shown his love with to him previously. Because
now he's trying to kill Usagi, who Mamoru is destined to be with. And he has this very, obviously, I would argue, very gay moment where it's like, my potential boyfriend threw a flower at me, and he has a breakdown, but it is very sad.
It's really sad, but it's also really funny when he says, You threw a flower at me!
Yeah, and then he has a breakdown. I will say, though, that the scene that actually makes me cry about that is afterwards when Fiore is now desperate, he feels rejected. And you have to think, from his point of view, whatever his race or family is, they're gone. Mm-hmm. He was alone, and he had this one friend. And that friend now tried to kill him.
Yeah.
And he grabs the brooch that Sailor Moon is trying to activate the silver crystal with, and he grabs it, and he tries to crush it. And he sees the flashback of Usagi and Mamoru meeting as children. That scene just kills me. Because you have little baby Usagi, coming up to Mamoru and giving him the flower, and then Mamoru passes it on to Fiore, and then when Fiore is so confused and he's holding the brooch, and she touched his hand and said, you don't have to be alone anymore, it'll be okay. I think that ties very much into two things. One is the ending of the movie, which we'll get to, with what happened potentially to the villain. Two is the fact that he lets go and he sees the silver crystal and it's a flower. And he starts bawling.
And he thinks it's a beautiful flower, yeah.
And that's the scene that I think made me cry.
Yeah, that one always makes me cry too, because it shows that Usagi, even when it's an enemy, she cares about people. She wants them to not be alone anymore, and she wants them to be happy. That's why she transforms in Sailor Moon R those sisters to be humans so they can be together, and that's why she tries to break through to Fiore instead of killing him so many times in this movie. And it really shows the kindness of Usagi and how much she loves and cares about the people around her, the people of Earth, her friends, her boyfriend. It just always gets me in the feels every single time I see it.
And I think that all ties into the ending of the movie too, because when you're looking at the themes of the movie and the love and the forgiveness and the sacrifice, at the end, Fiore forgives Mamoru. And realizes, hey, you didn't replace me, but this is your destined partner. And Mamoru and Usagi already forgave Fiore because they know that he was twisted by
he was troubled,
by these things. And then Fiore, after Sailor Moon basically dies, she's on the brink of death, pretty much dead, because she uses the full power of the silver crystal to save her friends and prevent this asteroid from hitting Earth. He gives up his life force to bring her back. And you see him transformed again into a child, like he's back to this innocent state, and he floats off. And to me, this ties into what she said, because we know that the silver crystal can grant more than one wish at a time.
You thought at the first time you watched it that he died.
Yes.
And I thought that too, but then you thought about it for a little longer and you said, well, what if she wished on the silver crystal, while she was saving everyone, what if she wished that nobody had to be alone anymore?
Out of them.
And wouldn't it make sense that Fiore, not being alone anymore, he would maybe revert back into a child and go back to the Makai tree with Ail and On, wherever they are in the universe?
Yeah, and I've never seen that take online. I have no idea if that's a popular take or not. I doubt anyone even cares, but to me,
that's our theory.
That's what I like to view this ending as, because the silver crystal can grant more than one wish at a time. Like, for example, when she was using the silver crystal to defeat Queen Metalia, who was obviously at that point kind of merged with Queen Beryl in season 1, she didn't only unleash the full power of the silver crystal to defeat Metalia and then die. She used it, and what else did it do?
She also wished before she died that they could all be reincarnated as normal girls.
Yes. And so to me, I like to view her grabbing Fiore's arm and saying, you don't have to be alone anymore, as part of the wish.
I think so, too.
When she was activating the full power of the silver crystal. And I like to view it as he was sent off to be with what's left of his people.
I always think it's really interesting, too, the fact that, you know, you get a dying wish when you unleash the entire power of the crystal. And sometimes we don't hear her dying wish. And this is one of those specific cases where we didn't hear her dying wish. And I really think your theory could be true, and I think it's really interesting. And
I also think it's a lot better than just, and then he died, and then he's dead. Because he floats off. Like, why did he float off? He didn't just disappear. No,
he didn't. He's still there, I think. And I thought that was really interesting. I really liked your take on that a lot. And I always really like the take on the silver crystal, that, like, the silver crystal has kind of like a mind of its own, too, and wants to take care of people as well. And that's why it chose Sailor Moon as its host.
Yes. And I know we talked a lot about the story here. I did want to mention, too, that you had some things you wanted to say outside of the story. Like, for example, the animation you wanted to talk about a little bit. You know, this was the first time, as far as I know, that we ever got to see any Sailor Moon in widescreen.
Yeah, widescreen, really high budget. Well, I guess not really, really high budget.
Much
but
higher budget than an episode of the show.
Higher budget animation. I think it's beautiful. I love the way the animation's done. I love the way the movie looks. I love all of the moves that the girls do. They even do Sailor Teleport.
That was awesome.
And it looks so cool.
Which is immediately followed by a random CGI scene that looks like it's out of the PS1 and is the only bad looking scene in the film.
That is the worst scene in the film. It's probably the worst scene in the entire 90s anime canon. I don't know why they used CGI for that. They should have just drawn it. It looks terrible.
And you could show it. They showed the asteroid Fiore was on, but for some reason they put it in like 3D CGI instead of just drawing it.
But you know what? It's really funny to talk about now, I bet.
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is. I think that, you know, but you pointed that out, that this is such a beautiful movie. It's so gorgeous to me. The way that it's 2D drawn, you know what it reminds me of? Seeing anime like this, where it was hand-drawn, two-dimensional, with so much character in it and so much character in the background of every shot, it to me often feels ageless. Yes. It doesn't feel like it'll look old in 50 years. I mean, we're talking about it now and it doesn't look old.
It feels like those old Studio Ghibli movies and those old Disney movies that had a lot of love and care put into them.
Like watching Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast, or even The Princess and the Frog, a more modern one. You know, you see that 2D and it's this timeless feel.
You say more modern. I'm pretty sure I was like 10 when that came out.
Well, it was after 2000.
That's true.
So it's more modern for Disney. But yeah, I think that it's something that it aged so well in terms of, to me, both its writing and the way that it looks. You know, and you even pointed out too, the girls used more, I would say, high budget versions of their moves. You got to see more of it. It wasn't just stock footage of, I'm going to do Venus Love Me Chain, and you see the stock footage of Venus Love Me Chain for the 500th time.
They actually, like, I feel like they reanimated it. Same with the transformations. They did a really, really good job on the transformations, and I absolutely love it. There is one weird scene in the movie where at first we thought Chibiusa was trying to literally murder Usagi, and then it turns out that she was just trying to get her to wake up, but her weird way of getting her to wake up was by making it so she couldn't breathe.
Yeah, so that she'd freak out and wake up.
I guess, but that was a really long and weird scene.
It's very drawn out.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be comic relief. I thought the Blu-ray froze.
I thought it did too.
When we first watched, because there's no sound during it.
Yeah, and it just sits on that frame for a while. It's kind of weird.
But to me, overall, like, this movie is such a weird anomaly, because with Ikuhara involved, and I know there's not enough in-depth information about a lot of this stuff behind the scenes, there were all these rumors, like, Ikuhara, he must not like Naoko, and he wants to kill off Tuxedo Mask and all this stuff. And later on, he, you know, expressed his like for Naoko, and I don't know about the Tuxedo Mask stuff, but it's weird to me, because it's like, if he didn't like Tuxedo Mask,
why did he write such a beautiful movie about their love?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really well done, and, you know, they even, I know this is kind of like a repeat of the plot line from the first season when Mamoru kind of like, I don't remember what he takes, but it's something that Kunzite throws at him that's gonna kill Sailor Moon. That happens again, except it's Fiore throwing something at Sailor Moon to try and kill her. and Mamoru kind of like takes the bullet for her again, and it's a very similar scene to that one in the first season.
A lot of homages in this. You know, there's that homage. There's the one of the girl flashbacks, which were reanimated, where they met her.
And I absolutely love that scene, though. I absolutely love it. I love the idea that Mamoru loves her so much that he's willing to die for her. I find that really beautiful and sweet, and it's the kind of love that I always dreamt of when I was younger and that I always wanted and that I actually found.
You're sweet.
With my sweet husband, who I hope would take a bullet for me.
Well, I hope so, too. Something that I think you wanted to mention as well was the small touches in this movie. You know, we talked about the homages, but even down to the fact that when she turns into Princess Serenity, again, to activate the silver crystal fully, and the light shines on Mamoru, he's retransformed into his Endymion armor.
He looks like Prince Endymion,
Yeah.
and it's really cool. I love his Prince Endymion armor, by the way. That could be a whole video on his design. Chef's kiss.
But overall, I think, too, that this movie is just... It's one of those things that I really think should be considered an anime classic.
It is an incredible movie. It's a must-watch. It's one of the movies that I didn't see as a kid. When I was a kid, I had the Dick Dub VHS tapes of Sailor Moon Supers, the movie, and Sailor Moon S, the movie, and I would watch those over and over and over again. Absolutely loved them. But I never saw The Promise of the Rose until I got to be an adult, and I'm glad for it because it really impacted me.
Wasn't it because I bought it for you?
Yes, you bought it for me.
I bought it for you, and I sent it to you when you were still living in Maine, and I was here in Minnesota.
And I watched it that night that I received it, and I loved it, and it made me really happy, and you know, I'm glad that this movie exists, you know?
I am too. I think it adds to that 90s continuity. It's not, you don't have to watch it to enjoy the anime, but I really do think it enhances it, and I think...
it enhances their love story.
Yeah, and to me, it's one of the more solid story arcs overall. There are things that I would change, like I wish that they had mentioned Aileron in this, so that it wasn't just well, is it a reboot, is it not? You have to decide. I wish that they had just said it, so that it wasn't an online debate.
Yeah.
Because I personally think this works much better as an in-90s continuity story. But overall, it's like beautiful animation, clearly higher budget. They got the characters right with Minako and these others.
We highly recommend.
The flashbacks are great. Everything's great.
The gay undertones are really interesting, too.
Oh, absolutely. I just wish they'd focus more on gay undertones with Ami and, obviously, Mako.
The girls have a little conversation, too, after they talk about whether or not Mamoru must be gay for Fiore.
I thought that was funny.
And it's a really funny conversation, and I think Ray says something like, well, there's nothing wrong with people being like that. Or, like, one of the girls says something like that. And it kind of makes them sound a little bit,
Yeah, they start, like, randomly defending it, which is really funny. And then, I think Minako's like, yeah, you know, I have a couple friends at our school who like girls. And then Ami's like, what? Really? Oh, my. And I think that's when Mako says, you're so cute, Ami. And it's just, like, very clearly, it's all in the background. But I think they very clearly put some fan servicey things in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people who likes to ship Minako and Ray and likes to ship Mako and Ami. But that's just me. That's just me.
Well, and the thing I love about this movie is it doesn't matter. You know, if you want to view every single thing as just they're just good friends, they're cousins type thing, you could enjoy this movie just as much.
Yes.
It's not in your face with any of its themes, but it's very open
to interpretation, yes.
And enjoyable no matter who you are.
Yeah, and I love that movie. I just love it, and I hope you guys watch it.
Yeah. So, Jill, what do you want to say before the end of the video?
What I wanted to say, I hope you guys really like this video and us talking about this. We're going to talk about the other movies, too. We are currently watching through the 90s anime, and we're getting through all of the movies together, and then we're going to start watching Crystal together. I'm really excited for it, because I have so many videos I want to talk about with all of this stuff, because I love Sailor Moon. I'm also going to be making more Dragon Ball videos in the future, and possibly some Full Metal Alchemist videos, or some other anime-type-centric
We wanted to watch My Hero. I know
that's
something
true.
you want to watch.
And I want to watch Cardcaptor Sakura. There's a lot of things I want to watch. So I hope you guys stay tuned, and hopefully subscribe to my channel, because I got a lot of stuff to talk about if you really like anime.
And you also have something that people can do if they want to help support our channel. First off, If you like video games, we have a Fortnite creator code DJAY123, which is an awesome way you can help support this channel.
We also have a shop called CosmoBunny.shop. It is my special little place where I make coasters and keychains and stuff like that out of resin, and you can explain what I put in said resin pieces.
Well, here I am to explain, Jilly. Here's what we do. We go to comic book shops, places that sell manga, clearance bookstores. You know what we do? We either ask for damaged books or buy at dirt cheap prices very damaged books. So things like comic books, manga, you know, things like that, graphic novels. People are going to say, why would I want something damaged? That's the point. People don't want to buy books that are damaged. They just don't want
Especially when the pages are all yellow and icky.
These are things like coasters, keychains, trays. They are made semi-renewable and green by taking that paper and preserving it, and then we actually recycle the rest of that stuff. And how do you send these things out, Jill?
So I'm the type of person who gets a lot of packages in the mail because I like to spend my money. So I keep the packages that I receive in the mail and the packing materials, and instead of throwing them away, I reuse them. So every time you buy from me, I put your stuff in a package that I have recycled and send it to you, and I hope you reuse it too.
Yep.
And I also make, don't forget, I make handmade jewelry. I take commissions on it. I make beaded jewelry. It's one of my favorite things that I do.
Some of it's even inspired directly by anime that you like.
That's true. So if you are in the market for beaded jewelry, if you want a commission, like custom done, or if you just want to look at the stuff that I have pre-made, definitely go check that out. My discount code for 10% off is in all caps, Sailor, SAILOR. So definitely go check out CosmoBunny.shop. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Please subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!
Bye!